elementos. Primeramente, la ponencia de un artículo, y finalmente vamos a tener a un invitado especial, al doctor Joao, quien es vicepresidente del grupo de trabajo de la IEEE sobre inteligencia computacional en el dominio de la energía. Bueno, dando comienzo a esta sesión, pues comenzamos con el trabajo de los autores Francisco Félix, Néstor Leiva, Oscar Urias, Manuel Medrano, Héctor Rodríguez y Juan Flores, cuyo título es Predicción de la carga en redes eléctricas mediante el uso de LSTM. Les recordamos a los ponentes que tienen aproximadamente de 10 a 12 minutos para exponer y después vamos a tener un espacio de preguntas. Sin más, pues le doy la palabra a Francisco Félix para su exposición.
Bueno, buenos días. Aquí ya estamos presentando. Les venimos a presentar nuestro artículo. Trata de la evaluación de modelos para la predicción de cargas en redes eléctricas. Bueno, pues vamos a comenzar. La carga eléctrica representa el consumo eléctrico que tiene una zona en específico. Esta zona pues puede ser una industria, puede ser un sector rural, además pues puede ser un residencial. El consumo eléctrico que generan los consumidores a lo largo de un año representa una oportunidad importante para las series de tiempo. Ustedes aquí se preguntarán qué es una serie de tiempo. Bueno, pues una serie de tiempo es una secuencia de datos que son medidos en momentos determinados y ordenados cronológicamente. En otras palabras, una serie de tiempo es un conjunto de observaciones sobre los valores que toma una variable a través del tiempo. Aquí se puede ver pues una gráfica donde podemos ver un orden cronológico en la parte de abajo y pues por la parte de arriba pues podemos ver que se está midiendo algún dato, cualquier dato pues se mide algún dato. Bueno, es muy importante la predicción de cargas a corto y mediano plazo, ya que permiten a las compañías eléctricas mantener una alta eficiencia energética y un funcionamiento más fiable. Es decir, pues se puede saber en qué momento o en qué periodo de tiempo va a haber una mayor demanda de carga eléctrica. Y al tener este conocimiento, las compañías eléctricas pueden preparar sus instalaciones para dichos picos de demanda, asegurándose de esta manera de que tengan un servicio más confiable. Durante la etapa de pronóstico, pues buscamos predecir mediante los datos previos el consumo eléctrico que podría tener una central eléctrica. Nosotros tomamos en cuenta una ventana de un conjunto de datos y a estos mismos datos le aplicamos algunos modelos de aprendizaje, los cuales fueron una red neuronal artificial, una red neuronal recurrente y una red de gran memoria a corto plazo, mismas que vamos a abordar a mayor detalle a continuación. Bueno, vamos a empezar con una ANN, por sus siglas en inglés, Artificial Neural Network. Este tipo de red es un sistema de cómputo diseñado para simular la forma en la que el cerebro humano analiza y procesa información. Estas redes son consideradas como la base de la inteligencia artificial y resuelven problemas que serían prácticamente imposibles o muy difíciles de resolver para el ser humano. La arquitectura de una ANN está compuesta por una capa de entrada, la cual está constituida por neuronas a las cuales se les introduce un valor inicial a la red. En esta capa pues no se lleva ningún tipo de procesamiento. Luego tenemos la capa oculta, la cual contiene todas las neuronas que no son observables. Esta capa puede ser formada por una o varias capas. Y en esta capa es donde se lleva todo el proceso de aprendizaje de la red. Pues en otras palabras, aquí es donde se hace el procesamiento de todos los datos. Y por último tenemos la capa de salida, la cual está conformada por neuronas cuyos valores corresponden a la salida de la red. En otras palabras, pues es el valor pronosticado de la red. El siguiente modelo de aprendizaje es una RNN, por sus siglas en inglés, Recurrent Neural Network. Esta es caracterizada por integrar bucles de retroalimentación. Estos bucles de retroalimentación permiten que la información persista durante varios pasos o épocas de entrenamiento. Esto para poder permitir que se ajuste de mejor forma a los datos de la entrada. Una de las características más significativas de este tipo de red es que trata los datos secuenciales de una forma más eficiente, ya que recuerdan las salidas anteriores y las interpretan como nuevas entradas. Pues al igual que una ANN, la arquitectura utilizada para la red RNN es una capa de entrada, una capa oculta y una capa de salida. En la capa de entrada es donde los datos se ingresan y donde inicia el proceso de la red. Creo que le di una más para adelante. Ok, disculpe. Bueno, después tenemos la capa oculta, que a diferencia de una ANN, en la RNN, este tiene un mecanismo de bucle, el cual actúa como una forma de permitir que la información fluya de un paso a otro. Pues es decir, la última capa se encarga de retroalimentar la capa anterior con datos actualizados. Y por último tenemos la capa de salida, la cual está conformada por neuronas cuyos valores corresponden a la salida de la red. El último modelo es una LSTM, por sus siglas en inglés, Long Short Term Memory. Esta red tiene una arquitectura basada en una RNN. Las LSTM tienen conexiones de retroalimentación siendo capaz de procesar datos sencillos hasta secuencias de datos en su totalidad. Esta es una red que es muy utilizada para las tareas de clasificación y regresión de datos secuenciales. La arquitectura, pues las partes de la LSTM viene siendo la puerta del olvido, la cual está representada por una F que controla si es que se borran los datos del estado de una célula. Tenemos después la capa candidato representada por una C, la cual controla lo que los datos escriben en el estado de la célula. Después tenemos la puerta de entrada representada con una I, la cual controla si es que se escriben los datos en el estado de la célula. Después tenemos la puerta de salida representada con una O que controla qué datos pasar como el estado oculto de salida. Y pues tenemos el estado oculto representado con una H, que es la salida de la célula. Y ya por último tenemos el estado de memoria representado con una C, el cual es utilizado para registrar la información adicional. Para el desarrollo de este trabajo se utilizó un conjunto de datos obtenidos de la ENSO Transparency Platform. Dicho conjunto contiene la carga eléctrica total de España en un año, en el año específico de 2019. Los datos que contiene este dataset están especificados en megawatts. Bueno, para la validación de los modelos se utilizaron las medidas estadísticas de precisión. Se utiliza un conjunto de datos de validación, el cual nunca fue utilizado en el proceso de entrenamiento. Este conjunto es ingresado a la red neuronal y su salida es evaluada, con lo que nos permite conocer la aptitud del modelo. Para problemas de regresión, normalmente se utilizan medidas estadísticas como el MCE, que es el error cuadrático medio, el MAE, que es el error absoluto medio, el MAPE, que viene siendo el error porcentual absoluto medio, y el RMSE, que es la raíz del error cuadrático medio. Bueno, a continuación, pues les vamos a mostrar las gráficas que obtuvimos como resultado de los modelos de aprendizaje. Las mediciones de esta gráfica toman como marco de referencia a los datos existenciales del conjunto de datos para crear una predicción. La línea amarilla representa los datos reales y la línea azul representa los datos obtenidos por la predicción de la red. Pues se puede, aquí por parte de la ANN, se puede observar que pues hay algunas fluctuaciones, más sin embargo, pues es evidente pues que hay algunos puntos de inflexión en donde se separan un poco las líneas. Si bien no es muy errónea, pues se aleja del resultado óptimo que esperamos. Para el caso de esta red, nosotros utilizamos 64 neuronas y solamente una capa oculta. En la RNN se pueden notar ciertas fluctuaciones un poco menos evidentes. Si bien es mejor que una ANN, pues sigue alejada de ser el resultado que se espera. Y en este caso utilizamos 3 capas ocultas y 80 neuronas. Y ya por último, tenemos el resultado de la LSTM, donde pues ya se puede observar pues muy claramente que los valores de predicción tienen una diferencia mínima con los valores reales. Y para este caso se utilizaron 80 neuronas y una capa oculta de 4 bloques. Como resultado aquí pues les mostramos la comparativa de las medidas estadísticas de precisión. Y pues se puede observar que el modelo con menos error es la LSTM. Aquí se puede ver el MAE, el MCE, el MAPE y el RMCE de cada red. Y pues ya como un dato pues un poco más vago, el que se suele tomar más en cuenta es el MAPE. El que tenga el MAPE más bajo pues usualmente es el más óptimo. Ya como conclusión, pues en este trabajo nos fue útil para observar cómo es que los diferentes tipos de modelos de predicción interactúan a la hora de mejorar la producción de electricidad. De esta manera, la propuesta de la implementación de la inteligencia artificial en el sector del consumo eléctrico puede ser presentada como una mejora en el apartado de control de calidad en el consumo de este servicio. Sin más que agregar, estoy dispuesto a contestar sus dudas o preguntas. No estoy escuchando alguna pregunta o algo, no sé si alguien esté hablando.
Sí, disculpa, acá estaba platicando con el micrófono cerrado. Comentaba que gracias por la presentación y bueno, pasamos entonces a las preguntas. Invitamos a todos los participantes que tuvieron dudas o quieren aclarar algunos puntos que lo comenten por escrito. Por acá tenemos la primera pregunta y es ¿cuál fue el principal reto que tuviste con este trabajo?
Bueno, el reto más grande que se obtuvo fue el encontrar los parámetros adecuados de cada red al momento de realizar el proceso de entrenamiento, ya que pues al ser un proceso en el prueba y error, pues sí se batalla mucho y a las redes tardar mucho en aprender, pues se me fue la palabra, pues sí, en aprender cómo predecir, pues se tarda mucho tiempo en entrenar. Esa es la palabra, en entrenar, se tarda mucho entrenando las redes. Pues lo más difícil fue eso, encontrar los parámetros adecuados.
Ok, entonces pasamos a la siguiente pregunta y es, ¿qué podrías considerar como trabajo futuro?
Pues como trabajo futuro serían explorar otras series de tiempo a las cuales se les puede aplicar y también encontrar algún otro tipo de modelos de aprendizaje, algún otro tipo de redes que pueden ser mejores. Ese es el trabajo futuro que se le tiene en mente ahorita.
Ok, continuamos con otras preguntas. ¿En qué fase se encuentra tu investigación? ¿Cuáles son los siguientes pasos?
Por lo pronto no está parada la investigación, no tenemos aún, pues no estamos trabajando en algo futuro de esta investigación. O sea, nosotros la hicimos ahí y ahí la dejamos.
Ok, pero ¿qué visualizas como posibles trabajos futuros? A veces uno no continúa en una investigación, pero ya hay ciertas líneas, ciertas debilidades o ciertas posibles mejoras que uno visualiza. No da tiempo
Sí.
en el espacio de la investigación, pero ya de alguna forma las tiene, ¿no? Las ha visto y es bueno expresarlo porque otros investigadores pues pueden continuar, no solo uno, sino otros investigadores pueden continuar con la investigación.
Sí,
¿Cuál es, sí, en
aún
ese sentido, cuáles has visto?
Pues la verdad que no hemos investigado mucho sobre eso, pero se le puede mejorar mucho a este proyecto, ya que, pues, como les decía, los parámetros es algo que se le puede mover bastante, y la aplicación de algunos otros modelos de redes también. Puede ser que haya otro tipo de red neuronal que sea mejor para la predicción de esta serie de tiempo, pues. Pero ya nosotros dimos como que un paso para que alguien más pueda saber o pueda guiarse y seguir adelante con el proyecto si es que lo desea hacer en una forma más estricta y de una forma más larga, pues.
Ok, otra pregunta tiene que ver con la explicación de por qué funciona lo que han hecho en el marco de la investigación. Es por qué las RNN son tan malas en comparación con ANN.
Bueno, pues aquí las RNN tuvieron una, no sé si puedes pasarte a los valores de Néstor de la presentación. Bueno, pues aquí pues podemos ver las comparativas. Pues si tienen un valor muy malo las RNN, pues casi no sé, a lo que estuvimos viendo, estas, por más que les movíamos los parámetros, pues casi no, o sea, daban mucho error, siempre daban mucho error, y yo creo que en mi experiencia, pues es porque al tener un tipo de retroalimentación, esta hacía que variara mucho el cambio, pues, de la siguiente época.
Ok, entonces continuando con las preguntas, ¿utilizaron alguna estrategia para optimizar los modelos?
La verdad es que pues tuvo mucha complejidad, pero más que nada fue estar cambiando los parámetros hasta que nos diera un resultado deseado. No hubo, o sea, no hubo una base o alguna guía que siguiéramos para la optimización de estos parámetros.
Okay,
Fue artesanal.
Sí, eso es un punto interesante, un punto de mejora, que podría verse incluso como algo del trabajo, como parte de un trabajo futuro. Porque muchas veces, pues, esto de encontrar los parámetros cuando se hace de forma artesanal, pues, se pueden quedar parámetros que no eran los correctos, ¿no? O no eran los óptimos para esta red en particular, y eso puede hacer que, por ejemplo, que una red te parezca que es mejor que otra para el problema, pero tiene que ver con los parámetros con los que fue configurado cada una. Bueno, por otra parte, otra de las preguntas es la siguiente. ¿Comparaste las métricas con SMAPE?
No hicimos eso.
Ok. Bueno, ¿alguna otra pregunta por parte de los participantes? Creo que han sido bastantes, han estado muy buenas las preguntas, igualmente la exposición.
Bueno, Ansel, nada más quisiera apoyar un poquito con las respuestas de aquí de Félix. Lo que quisiera comentar es básicamente este trabajo fue desarrollado durante el tiempo de una materia que ellos cursaron, que fue el reconocimiento de patrones. La investigación no es su tema de tesis, es una investigación, digamos, parcial, que llevó su tiempo, es parte de su proceso de aprendizaje. Por eso no está tan, digamos, no es como que va en una fase, en segunda fase, ¿no? Como les comenté a ellos, esto se puede mejorar introduciendo, por el momento se utilizó la estrategia de prueba y error, pero se pueden utilizar otro tipo de algoritmos un poco más sofisticados para el proceso de optimización, llámese algoritmos genéticos, algún tipo de algoritmo bayesiano, algún tipo de algoritmo, ¿no? Y los métodos que se utilizaron de evaluación fueron el MA, el MC, el MAPE y el RSM. El S-MAPE yo no le tengo tanta confianza, pero bueno, realmente nos quisimos quedar con esas 4 métricas, ¿no? Le podemos poner, a veces le puedes poner 10 métricas, pero luego también llena la tabla, ¿no? Y realmente lo que en mi experiencia he visto que casi el MC es el con el que estamos trabajando, ¿no? Y bueno, eso sería lo que quisiera comentar, Ansel.
Muchísimas gracias, Héctor. Sí, es muy entendible y de hecho es muy meritorio el hecho de que un estudiante en el punto y en el marco de una materia haya llegado a estos resultados, ¿no? Y de cierta forma, pues, aunque no sea su tema de tesis, pues es muy bueno que se haya llegado acá y es un elemento importante para poder continuar en este tipo de investigación, ya sea a través de él o a través de otros estudiantes en la misma asignatura o en la misma materia o en sus tesis. ¿Queda alguna otra pregunta que el público desee hacer? Si no hay más preguntas, pues lo siguiente que va a suceder ahora acá en nuestro taller es la presentación por parte de nuestro invitado especial, el doctor Joao Soares, con la plática Application of Computational Intelligence for Energy Domains. Faltan todavía unos minutos, 7 minutos. A los organizadores, pues no sé si sea momento de comenzar o esperamos, nos damos un tiempo durante estos minutos. Héctor?
Pues yo creo que I think we could start because we have no other. After the talk, we're gonna be a little bit paused because of lunch. So I think we could start with Joao's talk.
Okay, if I can start, good afternoon for you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can.
Yes,
yes,
Joao.
Hello, and you can see the screen, the share, or are you seeing the notes?
Yes, we can.
Can you see the full screen of my presentation, just to be sure?
Yeah, we.
Okay, so I'm sorry because I don't speak Spanish fluently. Although I work with some Spanish people, I prefer to do in English. So the presentation I will be talking today is application of computational intelligence for the energy domain. I want to express my gratitude to the organizers to invite me for this speech. I came from the Polytechnic of Porto. I graduated in computer science, and later I did my PhD in 2017 in the area of electrical and computer engineering, actually in computational intelligence applied to smart grids. I'm also an invited professor, a visiting professor at Central Lille in France since 2019. During my research career, I briefly worked in industry, and then I worked in research career in university, where I published works related to energy resource management, more recently in local markets and business models for electric vehicles. And also I am, like Dr. Ansel said, I am the vice chair of the IEEE Computational Intelligence Society Task Force 3. So my institution is in the Polytechnic of Porto, in the north of Portugal, a very beautiful city in Porto with a riverbed, it's called Douro. In the Polytechnic of Porto, we have several schools. One of them is School of Engineering, where I work. Polytechnic of Porto is a very old school with more than 100 years. Currently, we have 18,000 students spread in different schools. And we are the largest polytechnic institution in Portugal. After, if we include universities, we are fourth. The difference is that we only do bachelor and master degrees. We don't have PhD, and universities have PhD courses. I am associated with one of the research centers in Polytechnic of Porto. We have 24, and I work in GECAD. GECAD is a research group on intelligent engineering and computing for advanced innovation and development. We are recognized by the National Science and Technology Foundation, and we are evaluated every 5 years. In the last evaluation, we had the maximum classification, excellent, and we work in 2 different areas, intelligent systems, which is related with artificial intelligence, and power and energy systems. So GECAD is about this, so it's a research center in the Polytechnic of Porto, where I work. You are invited to send students, master students or PhD students for visits. We, every year, even with COVID, we are receiving people, even they sometimes work remotely. But we have nice facilities. This is just one of the labs we have, where we have real-time devices for simulation, like Opal, and we have several battery storage systems, inverters, and so on, where we can evaluate our models, our algorithms in more close to real world. So that was just an introduction to myself and my institution. This is my speech to begin with. So I will start with a brief motivation, why we need computational intelligence in power systems. Then for those that don't know what is computational intelligence, and more specifically evolutionary computation, which is a subfield of CI, I will just give a brief introduction. And then in the end, some brief applications using evolutionary algorithms from EC, from evolutionary computation in smart grid. I will try to give a few examples. If I have time, I will give more than this, but I will be very, not very detailed, just more generic for you to have an idea. So, the motivation for using computational intelligence in smart grids. Before that, I always like to talk about the increasing of energy consumption in the world, especially in countries like India and China and even Mexico, because the population is living every day better and better. So they are having more electronic devices. In the future, they will have electric cars. So the energy consumption won't stop. Even if we are getting more efficient, even if our appliances at home are more efficient, they consume less. Even if our lights consume less, the energy consumption won't stop in the coming years. Of course, to supply all of this energy consumption, we need to do it in a very we need to do it in a sustainable way, because the scientists say, and now if you see yesterday, they said that climate change is the next big problem of humanity, and this is getting worse. So they believe that we are causing the temperature to go up, and warming the planet has severe consequence in the climate change. and energy, producing energy, is one of the responsible parts of that. So that's why for some decades we are trying to increase the renewables in our power systems, like wind and solar mainly. But as you see in this graph, in this figure, you can see that this is becoming exponential growth. The problem of renewable generation is that it's difficult to predict. It will make power systems much more difficult to operate because in the past, traditionally, it would be just producing energy very far from the cities. So we just produced energy and then we transported this energy in very beautiful line transmissions that you see in a highway until the city centers. And basically, we just need basic communications and controls. But now, with the renewable generation, and with in the future with electric cars and battery storage systems, and all the technologies that we have today, this will get much more complicated. It is much more complicated to operate this grid. And this is the reason that computational intelligence will be needed to address some of the problems that in the past were solved maybe with simple equations and simple mathematical formulations. But in the future, it will be difficult to predict all of these variables, that you will have renewables, you will have electric cars, you don't know exactly where they will be charging or how much energy they will need. And so all of that, to predict all of that, you need methods that will give you that will need to give you the best accurate answers you can have so that you can have a good decision. So this is why traditional decision making is not enough for the future. That is why computational intelligence is emerging as a tool for the power system so that you can solve problems that did not exist in the past, but now they will exist because of the renewables, of electric cars, and all of these technologies that now we have, but in a sense will make the grid operation much more difficult. I am talking about large-scale problems with a high number of variables, like centralized energy scheduling, the uncertainty that I already talked in the renewables and electric vehicles, market price, you see. And then we have the problem of limited decision time. So sometimes you have to have a decision for online reconfiguration problems. For the participation in the market, in the electricity market, you need to have decisions fast. And to have decisions fast, you have to have methods that give solutions fast, even if they are not the best answer, you at least have some satisfactory solution. And of course, some of the models that we have in power systems, even if we try to linearize, sometimes it's not easy to linearize some models, and we have many nonlinear constraints, sometimes nonlinear objective functions. Sometimes we have not only one objective function, but we have several. We are trying to minimize cost. We are trying to minimize CO2 emissions or any other emissions. So you have more than one objective, and that becomes really complex for traditional decision making. All right, so I already talked about this. I always like to show this figure about uncertainty because, like I told you, when you are making forecasts, there is no forecast method that is exact. Like you can imagine, it is impossible to guess the future, and we have uncertainties in market price, even in consumption, of course, renewables and vehicles, and in the past the market there was even no market, no electricity markets. Now we can estimate, we can have an idea of the price that will come from the market, but we don't know for sure when we are making decisions in advance. So even price are changing. So all of this gets very complex. And that's why using the just single scenario tools might not provide you the best solution if you are sure about these variables, then perhaps deciding with this scenario is the best solution. But if you are not sure about this, perhaps it's not good just to rely on one scenario. But of course, when thinking about applying computational intelligence, you should always ask yourself, and keep this in mind, if you are still a young student or an undergraduate student and you never talked about computational intelligence, keep this in mind that you need to think about the complexity of your problem. What is the problem you are addressing in power systems? Understanding the complexity of your problem is very important, because you are not going to apply computational intelligence for well-established problems that are easy to solve with simple equations or with simple methods. To calculate the power of circuits, are you going to use evolutionary algorithms? Of course, no. And there is a saying from Confucius that says, don't use a cannon to kill a fly, because it's exactly like that. You should not use computational intelligence if you can use equations or mathematical methods that already solve this problem very well. You should only use computational intelligence or evolutionary computation methods if you cannot address your problem mathematically or with well-established equations. You see, that's it's very important, so that you keep that in mind, that these problems, these techniques from computational intelligence will only be used not as a last resource, I would say, but if you don't have a good way to solve it traditional. So don't use a cannon to kill a fly, like to kill a very small bee, for instance. So what is CI? CI is actually, so CI have here this division because computational intelligence is a family of problem solving. So here, this is very important, is a problem solving and problem stating techniques that try to mimic the intelligence observed in nature. So you have here a pretty good definition about what is computational intelligence. So it is techniques that try to solve problems, and these techniques are based in behaviors we see in nature, you see, biological features of the nature. So we try to use computers to simulate or to program them just to do the same as animals do or some events that we see in nature. So basically is that what computational intelligence is trying to do. And maybe you heard about artificial intelligence. Is it the same? Well, some researchers, professors say computational intelligence is a branch of artificial intelligence. Like if artificial intelligence is a bigger branch and computational intelligence is inside. Artificial intelligence is more concerned with the theory and proving of convergence. Computational intelligence is not so worried about that. Is worried about representing the nature and aspects observed in the nature, but using soft computing techniques. So you know that in computers you have binaries 0 and 1, and in computational intelligence we try to represent uncertainty as well. That's why computational intelligence is very good for power systems, because we have many problems where we have uncertainty. So in computational intelligence, we have one major field, which is evolutionary computation, and this is the one I will be focusing my talk. Then evolutionary computation is basically mathematics. It tries to mimic the intelligence observed in nature to solve optimization problems, okay? Artificial neural networks, well, the previous talk felt in this scope. Artificial neural networks try to mimic or to represent the neurons that humans have. So this can be used to train, like a child. We train a child, and then he learns, and then with new examples in life, they will react. It might not be the best answer, but it was trained, he learned. So with artificial neural networks, we can teach anything you can imagine, and they will provide the answer. Maybe if the teaching was not good, like a child If the child was not well educated, maybe it won't provide the best answer. But keep in mind that artificial neural networks are to learn stuff, and then based on what they trained, the learning, it will provide you answers based on the training. And then you have fuzzy systems, which is also a very important area for power systems, but I won't be talking much. I won't be talking much about it, but basically keep in mind that fuzzy systems is to represent uncertainty and subjective answers. Like usually computers represent 0 and 1 that can be true or false, right? But with fuzzy systems, you can go beyond. Imagine like the temperature for me, 25 degrees is great, but maybe for a Mexican, 25 degrees is just okay. All right, so you see that this needs a fuzzy system to be modeled, because to me, 25 is okay, and is great, and maybe for a Mexican is not so okay, it's just it's average. So it's not a case of 0 and 1. You need more states, and that's why fuzzy systems can represent this well. I did a work, I published this survey in 2018 together with another Mexican, Fernando Lazam, and other colleagues. Back then, we observed that computational intelligence is growing in our field. Well, it's growing in all areas of engineering, but more specifically in power in systems is growing more. In the energy domain is growing more. And you can see these trends, these lines, these dark lines, is the trend of growing across the years. Between 2000 and 2016, there is a noticeable growth. And evolutionary computation is actually growing more. So that's why I will be talking more about computational computation, because I believe it's gaining more importance than other areas. Of course, other areas are also important. I'm not saying that, but I am more also more specialist in these areas as well. So it is good that evolutionary computation is gaining more importance. And you can see that evolutionary computations represent 10% of the publications, artificial neural networks 22%, and there is a fuzzy system 2%. In evolutionary computations, which I already told to you, is mostly meteoristics. So there is a large set of algorithms available. I believe every month a new meteoristic emerges. There is a book that compiles about 130 algorithms, but it's a book with 3 or 4 years old. Now I believe there is more than 200. There is a large set of meteoristics. I searched which ones are more relevant in smart grid. Of course, I found that genetic algorithms is the one that has been more applied to smart grid, then followed by particle swarm optimization. Then differential evolution, and you can see here the importance of each one in terms of publications in Scopus. This is also due because genetic algorithms is very old, is one of the oldest. Then I guess it was 85, not 75, but okay, maybe that's the first draft. Particle swarm optimization in 1995, then differential evolution around the same year. As you can see, you have here at least 3 methods from evolutionary computation that are already significant, have already a significant number of applications in smart grid. If you don't know how these algorithms work, I will explain you briefly. So these algorithms for evolutionary computation, like I told you, they try to represent some behavior that you found in the nature. In the case of evolutionary algorithms that are one of the algorithms in evolutionary computation, you can also call them meteoristics, although evolutionary algorithms are a specific type of meteoristics. They are, to be an evolutionary algorithm, it should be population-based meteoristic. So you should have an algorithm in which you have a population, like it is. So you have individuals. These individuals represent solutions for your problem, okay? So you have a population of solutions, and each solution is a each individual is a solution for your optimization problem. It can be a problem in power systems, of course. And of course, like in real life, some individuals are better than others. Some individuals are more intelligent, others are less. So you have to have a scheme to evaluate them. So you evaluate your individuals to see their fitness. Their fitness is if this individual is better suited for this problem, okay? If they are better, they will have a better classification. So you have an evolutionary algorithm with individuals, which is your population. You start them. You can start them randomly, random numbers between the range of variables you know for your problem. You evaluate them. You have already an initial values for your population, and then this is the most important part that happens in an evolutionary algorithm. So even genetic algorithms, differential evolution, all of them have a similar structure, and they have what we call the evolutionary cycle. So what happens basically is that this population will reproduce or generate childs, and they will exchange information. We can call it genetic information in genetic algorithms, but basically they will trade some kind of information, and they will generate new individuals. It's what is happening with COVID right now. What COVID is happening is evolving. Is kind of intelligence, okay? It's kind of intelligence that is programming in the DNA. So COVID is evolving, and it's trying to adapt to see if it can survive the most as it can in Earth. So it's trying to be more transmissible, or it's trying to be more lethal. It's maybe more transmissible and less lethal is better for the virus because it can survive more. So it's trying by trial and error, it's trying to survive. The longer it can survive, the better. That's the goal of the virus. But this is just an analogy so that you can understand evolutionary algorithms. So what it tries to do is to generate new individuals to see if these individuals are better suited for your optimization problem. So you will find these variations to generate child. You evaluate if they are better, depending on if it is an elitist selection. You will replace them or not, depends, then there are many variations. But basically you usually replace the parents if the childs are better, if the fitness basically is better. In the end, when you decide that no more iterations or generations should be done, okay, I already have one solution. You call it best solution, but maybe if you keep searching, maybe there is a better solution. You cannot say that this solution is the best or is the best solution ever. You cannot say that in evolutionary algorithms because you cannot guarantee that you find the global optimal, okay? Keep that in mind as well. Then there are some aspects that you should know about evolutionary algorithms and meteoristics in general. This has to do with the solution encoding. So for your optimization problem, you should try to see how many variables you have, if you have binary variables, if you have continuous variables, what are the limits and the bounds of these variables for your optimization problem, what is the fitness in function, and what is the recombination scheme. So it's important that you understand how this works. Fitness function is the objective function, usually plus some penalties or some strategies that you use for our optimization problem. The combination scheme is what changes from evolutionary algorithm to evolutionary algorithm. So this is what is the major core of the algorithm you select. It basically happens in the variations and so on. Is the way you generate your shells. Then you have some problem-related aspects, and algorithm-related aspects of evolutionary algorithms. The initial solution will affect how your method evolves across the generations. You can have a randomized initialization, so you just generate random numbers for the initialization. Or you can have a mathematical method just to provide an initial point. This mathematical formulation can be simple without nonlinear functions, just to give an idea for the heuristic to go on. Or you can have some specific rules, heuristics, just to provide a better answer for a start, you know. It's just a start for the heuristic. Then you have repairing of solutions, you know. As you are generating childs, some of them are not good. So maybe we can try to heal them. You can repair. If there is possibility to make this child good, you will try to save your children, of course. So it's very recommended that you try to save your children, because it can be a good element for the society as an analogy, you see. So it's good that you try, because it can be a good solution for your problem. Sometimes when that is not possible, then you have to say, okay, this individual is not good, should be penalized, or we should identify it as a bad individual and maybe should not be selected. I know it sounds a bit bad, but if you don't do that, perhaps you will have bad individuals in your population, and that will be bad for your evolutionary cycle, you know. So these evolutionary algorithms are based on the Darwin theory. So usually the best individuals, they survive, and the best are always combining with the best. So you generate better and better individuals over time. That's nature, okay, working here. Then you have some algorithm-related parameters. For instance, here you see there is a cycle, and this cycle, how many times you will go on this cycle. So this is a parameter of your algorithm. You can have a number of iterations or / generations. How many generations you will keep your population doing this? So this is a parameter of your algorithm usually. And you will stop when these generations reach the number you desire. Also, the population size, how many individuals you have in the population, is also something that can be a parameter of your algorithm, you see. So there can be many parameters in your algorithm that will affect the way you search for a solution for your problem. Some researchers call this a B-level problem, that the heuristics are a B-level problem, because some of them before try to find the optimal parameters here. So when you try to find what is the best number of generations, because in principle you can have an idea by experience, but you don't know exactly what will provide the best answer, the number of individuals. So this could be firstly optimized. Why not? You just try to find what is the best algorithms, and then you actually, with these best parameters in the algorithm, I mean, you will run your algorithm to, okay, obtain the real optimization. So you see, you have two optimizations, but of course you can just tune your parameters by experience, by experimentation, not actually doing an optimization. That is an optimization that you do yourself. I don't have much time because I want to go for the actual applications, but I will just talk to you about differential evolution and some variants, because, well, at least is one of the most recent from the three that are the best used. So we have the differential evolution. What changed from other evolutionary algorithms is that the mutation operation is different, okay? So, but basically you have the same kind of procedure. So from your population, you take one of the parents, then you take another parent and some random individuals. Here, basically, you apply this mutation operator with the secondary parent. You exchange some information with two other random individuals for the population, and voila, you have a mutant vector. Then you go to the first parent and you try to make the child using a probability of crossover. So you generate a mutation vector based on this scheme. The F factor is a scale factor that will give importance to how much is this important. it can vary between 0 and 1. So you can actually tune this parameter, is one of the parameters of differential evolution. And then the CR is the probability in which this mutation vector will actually be used for the child, you see. So, and if the child is vector than the parents, it will be selected. Otherwise, it won't. So you can see basically how this works in the EDA. This is the basic EDA, but you can also find in the literature many different variations of EDA. What they usually will change is this mutation operator, so they will have different operations. Here is basically what just I said. In the original EDA, you have the F, mutation constant or scale factor. There are different names for that. And the CR is the probability of crossover or recombination constant that I already told you. And this is basically the control parameters you have, aside also from the population size. So if you want to apply this algorithm to your power system problem, you will have to tune these parameters in order to find the best answer for your algorithm. And as I was saying, there are more variations of differential evolution. What happens is that they basically change the way you generate the mutation operator. Of course, by using different equations, like you see here, rand to best and rand1 with defer and rand1 either or, basically you will change the way this mutation operator will be generated in each iteration, you see, in each generation. By doing so, you will change the way the differential evolution works, and you will have different answers when you try to optimize the same problem. Some of these variations work better for some problems. Maybe the original one works better for another problems. So you need to try different variations to really know if these are better for your problem. There is no definitive answer for me to say to you, okay, this one is more recent, so this one is the better. I cannot say that to you, and no one can say, because in this area of computational intelligence, specifically evolutionary computation, there is a theory that is called null free lunch theory. So you cannot say that one algorithm will be the best in new problems. You cannot say that, okay? Keep that in mind. Then there are some adaptive versions of DA. Basically, you don't need to tune these parameters. They are automatic, and they vary across generations. So they start with a value, and they will change the value as the generations go on. It's better because you just need to worry about the population size, but authors and researchers say that adaptive versions are better because they are easier, but they usually do not provide the best results. Since these are automatic, you don't tune them. Usually you provide similar but not the best answer for the problem. Then the Dr. Fernando Lozana and me and other colleagues in our institution, we proposed an algorithm that is based on differential evolution. We called it hybrid adaptive differential evolution with decay function. We participated in the competition in GECO conference in 2019, and we were very well ranked in third place. So we were were in the top 3 winners. Basically, this algorithm uses the adaptive version of GDA, so it is automatic. We don't need to worry about F and CR. But one interesting thing you will find is that the IDE will use this decay factor to, you see, this is a mutation operator I just mentioned, but we use the decay factor to switch from an exploration phase to an exploitation phase. So in the beginning, we are trying to generate more diversified solutions to try to see where the best solution is. And when we approach the end of the number of generations, the end of the program, we just eliminate one of the equations in the mutation operator. And this will give more exploitation capabilities, more local. So we just make some slight variations to the solution in order to find close in the neighborhood some good solution for the problem. Actually, this algorithm is available in my colleague website, Dr. Fernando Lezama. He's a Mexican researcher, like I told you. And you can find on this page all the information, the source code, and you can use it for different optimization problems that you are being faced with. So you can take a print screen. Maybe I can put these slides with organizers, and you can download and use. If you have any doubts about how to use it, you can also contact us. I don't have time to go to vortex search, but it's a kind of EA, but it's just a single solution-based algorithm, but it tries to generate a vortex. So from one solution, it generates a neighborhood using a gamma distribution function. This algorithm is also available online. You can go and download it. It's very interesting. We saw very nice results with them, very competitive and very new. It's 2017, 2016, if I'm not wrong. And now I will switch in the last 10 minutes I have for the applications in evolutionary algorithms for the smart grid. One of them, we have plenty of publications in this field, is the energy resource management of centralized energy resource management, and considering the scheduling of electric vehicles. This problem was already released in one of our international algorithm competitions. I will just show you some of the results we attained with using evolutionary computation. In this case, we have a 33 medium voltage network full of renewable energy. Full of that is very high penetration of renewables here from different kinds, as you can see in this table. And also we have plenty of electric vehicles here just to schedule. The idea that we have a central energy entity, aggregator, that is trying to schedule the best times according to the renewable generation and the available generation to schedule the charge and discharge of the electric vehicles. So vehicles can also discharge to the grid to provide energy if it compensates, of course. But the most interesting is that we are trying to recommend or trying to actually provide the profile to charge the electric vehicles at the best times. This is a very complex problem because it involves many variables, many binary variables. You can see here for this grid alone that we had a lot of constraints, more than 2,000, almost 300,000, many variables and many binary variables as well. We used a mathematical method, and this took 14 hours to solve. As you see, this is not possible because if an aggregator is doing this in real world in the next few years, it does not have time to come up on a decision with 14 hours because he has to go to the market and see, I need this energy to buy, or I need this, or I will need to sell this energy. 14 hours is not enough just to run one scenario. So you see, it's not good. And we applied the heuristics, and we almost achieved the same cost. I'm not sure if it was profit or cost. Now I don't remember, but we achieved the same objective function almost, so very quite close. But instead of 14 hours, we just had 10 minutes. You can see almost no difference, and 10 minutes with heuristic. So you can see the value of heuristics for some problems in the future if we need them, okay? Also, we tried this with many different heuristics and many variations. This is differential Scherz algorithm. This is particle swarm optimization. This is variations of differential evolution. I told you the mutation operator. You can see that there are variations. This is the original. This is the target to best. And you can see that here it's not worked so well. PSO works better. And in this case, when we use some specific strategy. Sorry, I don't have time to talk about this strategy, but it's a multidimensional signaling. When you use this strategy, we can get much better answers. And here is the the deterministic methods MILP and MINIOP. So this is the full AC formulation with a power flow, and this is without network constraints. Of course, this is not a very valid formulation, but was just to have an idea. And also we apply this problem to a much larger network with 180 bus, also with a lot of renewable energy in each bus, many cars, in this case 6,000 griddable EVs. And in this case, the number of constraints was almost 1 million, with also more than 1 million variables. Single was this one, and binaries was. So if you sum up, this was more than 1 million. In the mathematical formulation, we had 13 days, so it's too much. We cannot rely on this solution. Using an heuristic, we had between 13 minutes and 1 hour. So the objective function was more had a slightly difference here, but still compared with the time, we reduced it from 13 days to just some half an hour. So it's pretty amazing that we can solve this with a good objective function as well. Here is the same, but we applied different algorithms and different variations. And you can see here the solutions, the result timing. And here is just some figures for the scheduling. Here you can see EVs is charging when they are parked during the day to help. Usually this coincides with some peaks or when there is the energy is more expensive. When the energy from the market is more expensive, so electric cars can kick in, and this can compensate, okay? And of course, in the case 2, when we decrease the energy storage system price, they can also kick in and help the aggregator to achieve better profit. This is the charging of the cars, and you can see that the algorithm selected it to charge mostly at night because the energy is cheaper, and also there is plenty of renewables blowing, wind is blowing, so we can charge our cars and our batteries cheaper. All right, so if we let the users to do this randomly, maybe they will start to charge the cars here when they arrive home, and of course that will be much worse. But perhaps it will happen in the future if these methods are not implemented in practice. All right, so that was an example of an application using using evolutionary algorithms. We also used this for the optimal bidding in local energy markets. This was also released in a competition. There is already one paper with this information, with this model and all of these results. You can also take a print screen and search for this paper. Basically, in this problem, we have a local market for a start. So local markets is not a wholesale market. Local market, a residential household can participate, for instance, if they have a PV or if they just want to buy energy. So each of the agents is, in fact, can be a house with a PV or just a house, or can be a small producer just with a cogeneration unit or something like that, and is willing to sell this energy to the market to try to see if he profits more than with a bilateral contract from the grid. So basically, what we have is agents trying to minimize the cost and buy the most they can in a local market, because in principle, a local market is cheaper than the grid, than the energy that you buy in the grid. So this is a problem you are faced, and this is a problem we had. This can be solved, of course, mathematically, but can also be solved with heuristics. We believe that if this problem scales to thousands of agents, heuristics can be implemented, and we can use distributed like ant colony optimization to optimize this process. So bin level actually is two objective functions in this case. First, we are concerned to maximize our agent profits or costs. Sorry, and the profits of is the producers. So they want to maximize their profit in the market, and they want to minimize the other agents that have just consumers. They want to minimize their cost. Instead of buying to the grid, they are trying to see if they can buy cheaper in the local market. The lower level problem is to maximize the energy that is traded here. So we will try to receive the offers, quantities and price from each agent, and we'll try to maximize the energy transacted here. So this is a kind of, this is a bin-level problem, in fact. So this is a very didactic example in which we have 3 residential consumers, then we have 3 cogeneration units, 3 generators, and 3 prosumers. Basically, they are houses with PV generation. And here you have the profiles for each of the agents, house 1, 2, and 3, and the PV house. Here are the inputs parameters of our problem with the time horizon, 24 hours. And some of the price we used, the grid price, 28 cents of a euro. This is the feed-in tariff that the grid pays for the surplus of PV generation, so 12 cents. So which means that the local market the price should be higher for the producer, the prosumers to be interested, because otherwise they will sell to the grid at the feed-in tariff, okay? And this is the parameters of the equation for the cogeneration units, okay? We tried this with different algorithms. We ran 30 trials. So since the heuristics are random, we needed to have a good, a robust test to understand if they don't vary so much. So we ran the algorithms 30 times. In the first experiment, we used a small population size to see if this works well. And then in the second, we used a larger population size. So this is one of the parameters of the algorithms. For differential evolution, we use the scale factor as 0.5, and the probability of the CR is 0.9. An IDF, so DDF is the decay factor. I told you about IDF. We used also 0.5 and CR 0.5, but this is the initial value. So this is adaptive, so they will adapt over time as the generation goes on. And then we use improved PSO with these weights and vortex search. There are no configurable parameters, just the population size. So this is one of the advantages of the vortex that I didn't have time to explain, but there is no parameters aside from the population size. That's why it's very easy and very interesting for you to start. And the results speak for themselves. So you see, with a population size of 5, vortex search was the best to provide the overall costs, and it was 5.95 overall costs, almost 6 euros. We are talking about just 9 agents, so we expect in one day the energy not to be so much. So we are talking about almost 6 euros. So this is the best answer we can obtain with a heuristic, in this case with vortex search. Then you have here more details about how much it is for each consumers and prosumers, and how much time this took to run. You can see when you increase the population size, we are able to obtain better costs. So 5.5, we reduce it from 6 to 5.5 almost. But the time increases, of course. We have to evaluate many more individuals. So this computationally takes more time. And it was about 19 minutes compared with 5. So you can see here the difference, but at least we have better cost. If you have 20 minutes, it's okay. You can run with 20 of population size. But if you just have 10 minutes to decide, you need to run and to go with 5. Of course, in this problem, we are considering 24 hours in advance. So you don't need to use 5, you can use 20. And for your idea, this is more energy, this is more for curiosity from the energy aspect. If you don't use the local market, the cost will be 9 euros. So with local market, we can reduce the cost for everyone, as you can see here, even if you see consumers reduce and prosumers as well, okay? Here is more figures about how this, so this is the without local market, the cost for the 9 agents, and this is for when we introduce local market, the best vortex search solution. So this is the vortex search algorithm. So you can see negative value indicates profit, and those that don't have PV or the PV is not enough, they have cost. But still, you can see that the average reduced. So you can see that average is reduced. It's quite nice that in the future, local markets will reduce. I think I don't have time, but I will just briefly talk about some other problems that you might be interested, where we apply evolutionary algorithms. This problem is quite interesting. We also introduced it in the last competition. It's about smart appliance. We are using evolutionary algorithms to collect the flexibility from appliances. So if you have time, try to read this article. And you can see applications and the convergence of different algorithms for this problem as well. We also use the hide and vortex, different variations of VA and so on. In this case, the vortex search was actually better. So it's a good algorithm for you to start with. We also applied evolutionary algorithms to energy resource management with uncertainty, in which we use the different variations as well. In this case, HIDE was better, well, and much better, in fact, than the other published algorithms. We didn't try the vortex in this paper, but I believe we did it later, and the answer was not better. Here we applied to a safety isolating transformer design. This is a different problem, not is a power system problem, but is a different one. In this case, HIDE was actually better than the MATLAB sequential quadratic problem, as you can see. Here it was a little better, not very significant. But still, we were very happy that our algorithm was provided. This was done in the scope of my collaboration with Lille in France, as I am a visiting professor there. So we applied evolutionary algorithms to their problem, and voila, we found that we can find the best parameters for the transformer better than the method they were using. So just to conclude, keep in mind that methods from computational intelligence, and in this case, heuristics from AC, evolutionary computation, usually they are able to find very good solutions for a wide range of power system problems. Keep in mind that we cannot rely in the same algorithm forever. We should always try others, because sometimes problems are different. The landscape of the objective function and the problem is different. So you need to have a set of algorithms. I don't say 200, but a set of them. And you should try to see if they are good for your problem or not. But before that, as I told you, it's very important that if you are able to solve your problem mathematically, just try it before, because these methods cannot guarantee always the best solution. You don't know. You cannot know. If you don't know the mathematical model answer, maybe you are lost, okay? I just give you some of the selected publications that we published more or less recently, if you are interested to take a look. Some of them I already told you, but if you want more, I can give you by email. And this, if I had time, I would like to show you just where you can download more algorithms. You can go to our website. Are you seeing my browser? Yes, I guess you are. So if you are seeing, you can go to this website where you will find our last competitions from 2017. In this year, it's still not updated, but for instance, 2020, you have here the algorithms and presentations for all the participants. So you have here a lot of resources to start with in this website. For every year, for different problems, you can find many algorithms. And also on my colleague Fernando Lozama webpage, you can also find some repositories with some of our works, algorithms and data, where you can also start with. So this is just a note aside. All right, so thank you so much, and sorry for taking 10 minutes more than what I anticipated.
Okay, thank you, Joe, for your excellent talk. It was really interesting. I'm going to invite the audience to write their questions. You could do it in Spanish as well. I'm going to try to translate it. I think we have the first question. It says, do you believe that this kind of analytics techniques could work on another, it says methodology, but I think it means in another area. Is there any possibility for them to apply in a short-term future?
Thank you for the answer. What do you mean by other area? You mean area within power system or area in other areas of engineering?
Other areas. I just interpret the question, and if you're right, it's another area of engineering.
Of course, as I show you, one of the slides was just about that. One work we did in 2018. We found that this is very well applied in many other areas, as you can see here. So the publications in energy domain, at least in 2017, 2018, was these ones. But in other areas of engineering, the number was this. And you can see that actually fuzzy system has been more applied in other areas in engineering than in power systems, in energy at least. Only 1,400 publications is actually not a very good share, but here you can see that it's almost double of the other areas of CI. You can see or not? So if you can see that this is the energy domain is just a share or just a bit of what is the CI applied to other areas of engineering. So this represents all areas of engineering, and this is just in the energy domain. Okay.
Okay. Okay. In the meantime, while the audience write a question, I have a question. And now that we're watching the statistics, do you have an economical statistics on how the computational intelligence has impact to the energy domain? I would say, for example, I've read in a paper that if we increase the precision of forecasting the 1% in the aeolic field, it will save $1 million per year just for the United States. Do you have any statistics of that?
I don't have those numbers in my mind. I also read about that. But of course, that everyone is, well, it's not just about computational intelligence or evolutionary computation. We know that when we know that optimizing and tackling uncertainty is very important to reduce costs. We already have demonstrated that in many papers. So yes, saving, even if 1 or 5% will represent millions or billions of dollars, if we are talking about the United States, of course. But I don't have those numbers in mind. I know that from some magazines in IEEE, they usually have these more generic, more abstract articles where they talk about that. But even saving 1% is important. So either if you are going with a traditional technique or with the computational intelligence technique, whatever you can do to save money, of course, is welcome. And Americans like to save money, especially because they want profit. They are a capitalist system, and the profit is what matters for their stakeholders. So the more profit they have, the more dividends they will have. So basically, it's about that. But I don't have specific numbers in my mind. What I know is that is that computational intelligence is playing a role in this field, because as more renewables are coming, of course, more uncertainty you have. So it's more difficult to make good decisions when you have uncertainty.
Okay, this question is more or less like in your opinion, because probably it's going to be hard like to do like a scientific answer, but in your opinion, as you have worked with renewable energy, when do you think like first economies will start full adopt renewable energy, or 80% of renewable will come from renewable energy?
You know that that's a good question, but you know, I think United States is pretty behind in that. No, Europe is more advanced. Specifically, Portugal, we are in a very good shape. We more than 50% of our energy is already coming from renewable energy, and I mean from hydric and wind mostly. I guess there was some brief periods of time where we supplied the entire country with 100% of renewable energy. This is true, and you can find this news and this data on the web. But we are not unique. In Germany, in Denmark, we are already having some periods of the year when you have a lot of wind and a lot of rain, where we have 100% of renewable energy. Of course, what happens is that sometimes we have the electricity market price with zero price, because this energy is so much that they need to sell it at zero or even negative to pay to someone to just consume. So this is one of the problems with so much renewable energy in the future that we need to address. Perhaps having electric cars will solve this, or having energy storage systems, because when we have a lot of surplus energy, we will charge our cars, or we will charge our batteries, or we will have demand response programs in which we will just turn on the air conditioning or some other device that can consume this free energy, you see. But yes, at least Portugal, if you go to see the statistics, we are, of course, we are very far from 100%. And actually, this is very difficult to operate an entire country on 100% of renewables, because frequency deviation becomes a tricky problem. You know that without inertia on the system, although we are in a big trans-European grid, the frequency is well maintained. But you know that with a lot of renewables, that will be one of the problems, because we are losing inertia in the system. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but yeah. I guess Denmark will be one of the first to achieve that. Maybe Denmark will, and a couple of islands will be the first to achieve those situations, because they are like a pilot testing fields.
Okay, thank you. Let's hope this happens soon. Okay, and I have another question. You in your talk you share works of a case of study of evolutionary computing. Have you ever worked in using neural networks or fuzzy systems in a real like big scale projects?
I am not the expert working on artificial neural networks right now. I had some publications and co-authored some publications, but they are important for prediction, of course, and even for these problems. Without good estimations, let me put this clearly. Let's say the problem of the optimal bidding or the energy resource management. Without a forecasting tool, we cannot run the optimization in practice, you see, because we cannot have the necessary parameters of the problem. If we don't know how much will be your wind generation or PV generation for the next 24 hours, how can you solve your optimization problem? You can't. This won't work alone, you see. This will work with estimation methods that can predict, independently of the technique you are using. We need estimation, because we are dealing with estimation. The consumption is an estimation. the market price and an estimation. And then perhaps you need to run scenarios over these forecasts and knowing the errors to perhaps model the uncertainty around the problem. We applied some neural networks to some pilots, demonstrators in Portugal. And you can find the NetVCT project. Go to JCAD website and then find the NetVCT project. That project applied some of our models and neural networks. Like I said, I was not the one more involved on that because there are other specialists in JCAD in our school. But we use the artificial neural networks to predict not only artificial neural networks, but also sport vector machines and other machine learning stuff to come up with these estimations for that project. That was not a commercial project. It was with a company, but was a pilot, a demonstrator. Maybe in the future, they will use these technologies to provide some commercial applications. I'm not sure about how is that right now. Regarding fuzzy systems, it was more theory. I worked with Bruno, master students, and we applied fuzzy systems to network planning for transmission with Monte Carlo and so on. But in practice, I don't remember any good example that I can give you, okay?
Okay. Well, I think the audience is a little bit shy. So,
okay.
Yeah, well, that's all are my questions. I think we're gonna I'm gonna share the screen.
You can share the screen. You want to share?
Yeah, yes, I'm gonna share my screen.
I will stop then the screen. I need to stop now. How can I do? End show. Okay, let me just parar de apresentar. Okay.
Did you see my screen?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we want to thank you for this really interesting talk. And name of, I'm going to say in Spanish, Sociedad Mexicana de Ciencias de la Computación. We thank you for this really interesting talk in the track applications in the electrical industry.
I want to thank you, the organization, for this invitation. It was quite a pleasure, and it's been quite a pleasure to work with some of the organizers I know in competitions and papers and so on. It's really nice that I know it was through Fernando Lozama, but it's also very interesting that we know each other now. Thank you. And thank you so much. I'm sorry I was in the dark here because if I open my curtains, it will be very hot here. We are in the summer, and it becomes very hot, my living room, so I need to close, and that's why it is on the dark. So sorry for that.
No problem. And Ansel has some connection problems, from some internet problems, so he cannot be ended the talk, but he really want to be here. He told me that. Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope we meet soon in another talk.
Yeah, I hope to.
Together. I also work with artificial intelligence, with neural networks, doing forecasting, wind speed.
Very good.
Especially, so probably will be.
It's a very important area. It's an important area. Actually, you know that the industry is accepting more the machine learning and artificial neural networks more than the evolutionary computation. Meteoritics are still not well accepted, in my opinion. There are some applications, some companies trying to move forward, not only in power energy systems, but in aviation and other areas. But you know that machine learning and neural networks are more accepted right now in the industry.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a very good area to work with. Okay.
Thank you very much, Joao.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye. Bye. See you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Karina, entonces cerramos la sesión nada más, ¿verdad? No sé, a lo mejor.